Next on the list for Elfyn here is to add in the Oarlock blocks. Now, the plans call for a more traditional setup, which are called caves, and they are basically a block in the Oarlock section here in which there would be two pins, sort of dowels I guess, or we might call belaying pins. They go down into the wood, and then there's a small rope that goes over top, and the oars basically float in there. I mean, they're very efficient, they're very traditional, but the customer's not looking for that. So we're going to go with your standard brass insert, Oarlocks, collars, and Oarlocks leather on the oars themselves. So what we need to figure out, one, I know that the block has to go here. That was all figured out in the spacing of the scuppers. We also want them to sit level, so there's going to need to be the block in here. It's going to have a tapered bottom. But most importantly is to calculate how high it has to be and where, so that the pin that goes into there is not going to interfere with the coming through the bottom. So I need 2.5 inches. Well, actually more than that, almost 2 3/4 height. So we can drill into the Oarlock block, or sorry, the scupper blocks. That's not a problem. But we need to be very careful that as we drill through straight, going down 2.5 inches, I'm not poking out the side of the hull here, you know, and or inside and making a mess. So how high do the blocks need to be then? From here, I think we probably have height-wise maybe 3/4 of an inch. And we need, what did I say? 2 3/4. So I need the blocks to be up 2 inches above the top here. That's going to give us enough room. I can always shave a little more off the top or the bottom before I put them in. They're going to be made of the same mahogany. They will be glued down. We're going to make them permanent because the gunnels are glued in and all. So there's 2 rowing sections. There's going to be blocks here and blocks up forward. To make up the thickness required on the Oarlock blocks, I'm going to have to glue together a couple of pieces of the mahogany. It's all from the same stock, so it should match color quite nicely. Brush some on, thicken some up, and then clamp them together. Then I can begin to shape them. All these small pieces of mahogany have been saved from the actual build. The keel, the keelson, gunnels. So been able to salvage many small pieces for some of these smaller projects. For the block to sit here and be horizontal across the top, I need to figure out what angle to cut on the bottom side. So I'm just laying a big stick across the gunnels, and then I am going to measure which angle. This one. So I believe that's the angle we're going to need to cut the bottom of it. I bought this nice little small bevel from, I won't say which store, but a high-end tool store. And I've never really liked it, and I never seem to really ever get around to fixing it. But the wing nut is larger than the outer surface here, so when you're trying to do something like this, it's the wing nut that's contacting and not the edge of the bevel. One day I'm going to find myself a new wing nut and put a smaller one on there. I like the ones that have the levers in them. I haven't seen those very much anymore. I know the older antique ones work that way, but I've not found one. Maybe I'll go to my larger bevel for this. I started out by making these Oarlock blocks as individual units, as you'll see just previously of me gluing those pieces together. However, on the finished product that you can see here, I wanted to put some slight bevels on the blocks So there's a bevel from the bottom edge here, and maybe 5 degrees or something sloping up that way, drawing a line straight across there. So there's a slope from that point up on 5 degrees. It's vertical on the bottom half, and then trimming the ends. And running these small individual blocks through the table saw became a little bit sketchy, a little bit beyond my comfort level, my hands too close, because once you put a bevel on one side, it's not going to lay flat on the table saw table itself or against the fence. So I ended up gluing up a long piece, that was going to be more than long enough, and then cut all the bevels on it, and then individually cut them to length and added the end bevels by just using the miter gauge on the table saw. And that's what you'll see me doing here, is just cutting those individual pieces. Look, we'll go there. I'm just going to clean these up. So I think on this build I'm actually not going to recess in the fitting for the socket. And the reason for that is if I center that and recess it down in, I am very concerned that the length I'm going to need for the Oarlock itself pin to go down in through there may start to cut into the planking when I drill vertically straight through this 30-degree angle. So we're going to clean all these up. I'm going to have to, because there's a bit of a rocking going on in there from, there's a ridge in the center. I'm going to have to make sure that is nice and flat so that when this gets glued down, we don't have a lot of, an overzealous amount of epoxy sort of on the edges. Alright, I think I have the general shape, but I still need to flatten it out, and I think I'm going to take a cabinet scraper to that. Scrape off the high spots. Until this is not really rocking so much on there. That's better. Oops. And we just need to find the center here to drill a hole for the Oarlock. Right, I found the center of the length, center of the width. I'm just going to see if I can tap myself a small hole or a center punch mark in here so that the Forstner bit will automatically find the center. Now, for the size of the Forstner bit, we need to fit the sleeve here in the hole, and that is 5/8 plus. Just a hair over 5/8. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch a couple of holes through some scrap and see if 5/8 will work, or 3/4. I mean, 3/4 is too big, 5/8 is too small. So what, 11/16? I don't have one that size. So with the Oarlock in place, sitting on top, we have it sticking out not very much, so we'll be able to go into the inwale without piercing through. I mean, theoretically I guess it would be nice because you can put a rope through there and not lose, but we are putting the collars onto the oars with leathers, so they are not coming off anyways. So that will sit like so. One down, 3 to go. Last step on the Oarlock blocks is to drill now through the hole into the inwale, just deep enough so that the Oarlock and collar can go in. So I've set my drill here with a bit of masking tape to determine, because I really just cannot afford to go out, punch out the hull side or out the bottom and make a mess. So not quite there yet. There we go. The last thing I'm going to do is take a smaller drill and I'm going to punch a hole through the bottom of the hole in the Oarlock, out through the bottom of the in-wheel block, just so there's a little bit of drainage. We don't really need that hole filling up with water and sitting full of water. And with the Oarlock blocks glued in, we can move on to the final stages of building Elfyn, and that's varnishing all the parts. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and maybe become a subscriber. We'll see you next time. Bye.